What's up, guys? I'm going to talk today a little about HRV. So I've been using heart rate variability for the past 2-3 weeks now to track my morning readiness. So HRV for performance training hasn't had a whole lot of science backing it yet. Most of the data on HRV has been done on sick populations, people who have cardiac issues, concerns, or even autonomic nervous system. So what HRV tests is it actually tests the difference between your heartbeats, the time between your heartbeats. So typically when we measure heart rate, we measure the total amount of beats in 1 minute. It's going to test the difference between the R-R interval of your heartbeat. So you have a QRS complex, which is pretty much how your heart beats electrically, right? But in 1 minute, that doesn't mean that every single heartbeat is going to happen at that exact time. So most of us have a variation within our heartbeat or within our segment of heartbeats within a minute. And this is pretty much what that app's going to be testing, or what you're going to be doing when you test your HRV. So what makes the difference between the heartbeats is going to be your nervous system. Okay, so your nervous system regulates at the speed at which the heart beats and how frequently it beats. So your nervous system, the part that we're going to be talking about and what HRV is going to be determining most is going to be your autonomic nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system is made up of a parasympathetic and sympathetic tone. Sympathetic tone is your stress response. So if you're going to hit a big lift, if you're nervous, if you're stressed out, or if you're being chased by an animal, your body's going to all interpret that the same way and your heart is going to beat faster. Okay? And then your parasympathetic tone or parasympathetic innervation is going to be your rest and digest. So that's going to be what you do when you relax, when you meditate, when you sleep, when you get your recovery on point. Your parasympathetic innervation should be much higher than your sympathetic nervous system. So the balance between these two is going to be what really determines your variation between your R-to-R intervals. Typically, we want to have a relative good balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic tone. If we don't, we're going to be too stressed out. We're not going to be able to make progress in the gym. We're going to be tired. Our days are going to be sluggish. So I'm going to open my Elite HRV app, is the app that I've been using recently. For me, I think it's one, it's free. So all you need to have is a chest strap or heart rate monitor, and you can buy those for $30 online. They're not super expensive. I think they're relatively affordable, and they give you pretty good data for what you're looking for. All right, I'm going to open my Elite HRV app. Here's the home page where I have my weekly averages, my heart rate variability for the week, my readiness score for the week, my average resting heart rate, and then my weekly variation. So you'll also notice on the far left, that's actually my daily score for today. Today I had an 8 readiness score and an HRV of 67. Okay, so I'll go over what all those mean in a second, but if you can see on the bottom left-hand corner, that's my home page, and the next button next to that is the trends. That's where we're going to spend most of our time today, kind of just discussing how to use it. All right, so here's today's readiness scores. It also shows you how much of a variation this is from your previous scores. So yesterday I had 68, today I'm 67. My baseline is 69, which is kind of what's normal for me at the moment, and then lifetime average is 68. So you can see I don't have a whole lot of variation with my heart rate variability, which is a pretty good thing. That kind of means that I'm able to control my stress in every single day life, and I kind of, I'm a student, I'm in a routine. So the more routine you are, the less of a variation you're going to have of these numbers. Okay. All right, so the next thing down is the weekly insights. So here, again, just kind of going over more of that change. So weekly CV is the variation between your heart rate variability each morning. So you want to take this first thing in the morning, every single morning, preferably at the same time, so you can have a good score, or a score that's reliable from reading to reading. I also track my sleep in here as well, and that's just recording the number and the quality, if I think it was good, bad, or just mediocre. So that's my average for the week. So it also has your monthly. So don't think that I always have all green. I do have some days where I'm yellow. This past week has been a really good week for me as far as sleep and recovery has been. I only have 2 days of school this week. We had a snow day, and we had off for a holiday, and we don't have Friday classes. So I was able to rest and recover a lot better. All right, so the readiness trends is where I spend most of my time looking at it. So this is going to be a way for you to compare your trends from as long as you really want. And this is what you really want to look at when you're looking for trends and patterns and whatnot in your training. So on the top left, I can do heart rate variability, my heart rate. I can do sleep duration, exercise duration, all these different things that I can try to quantify to look for things in my life that's causing stress or is causing me to have a different score. So if I type the heart rate variability, you can kind of see my variation throughout that week. Again, it's pretty steady. I'm happy about that. But one thing to consider is that a lot of times you're going to have a different number just based off of the training you're doing at that time. So say if you're doing a weightlifting block that's 12 weeks long, well, the first 8 weeks that are building up to that peaking phase, by the time you get to week 6 and 7, your heart rate variability should be dropped down. You should not have all green, go, go, go. Because when we're trying to train you guys, we're trying to beat you down by that 7th and 8th week to where your body has to recover. So an HRV tool or a method like this, or even just tracking your heart rate, where I just clicked right here, this can help you kind of see how the stressor of application of exercise is. So if it's too low and you're always green, maybe you need to pump up the intensity a little bit. Maybe you need to change the volume a little bit. So this is just an easy way to kind of get some actual physiological data and numbers to apply to this. So I'm going to change the date and time in here. Okay, so I got this about a week. So I've only been tracking this for 15 or 16 days now. So I'm right at about a week, or sorry, 2 to 3 weeks. So I don't have that much data, but here are my days. I've only had 2 yellow days. Most of my averages are around an 8 or a 9 on their scale of what is acceptable or what is readiness factor for the day. So this is going to be huge. If you can track, like I said, if you can track a whole month of training and you can see up and down where your HRV is training, where your heart is trending, where your heart rate is trending, this is going to be really helpful for you to monitor your training. I really like this, and you can even pair it. You can have as much tabs open or clicked as you want up here. So quality of sleep, if I thought my sleep was really bad, I could see if that correlated to anything. Sleep duration, so you can kind of see some of that does trend well with my HRV. If I had better sleep, sometimes it would be up, but there were times where I thought my sleep was really bad and my HRV was better that morning. So it's very interesting, and again, this is all just data. You don't have to take everything with a grain of salt. So next thing down here are recent entries. So this allows you to actually see the exact numbers of your HRV and how they were calculated by that specific day. So again, you kind of see here, you have on this readiness chart or relative balance chart looking thing, you have sympathetic on the left side, parasympathetic on the right side. So this is just measuring how much of a change, or sorry, how much of innervation, of activation of the parasympathetic or sympathetic nervous system you have at that time. And again, the score of a 10 has really not much to do with your actual HRV score. It's more of how that looks to your baseline, and it has a few other numbers I'm going to go over in a second that make a bigger impact on the balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic. So HRV is just one number that this app tracks, but the heart rate monitors track in general. Okay, so HRV time domains. So all of these are different ways in which you can calculate your HRV score. So somebody here, these are just all the numbers. So you can actually export this data and send it to somebody else who's really trained in HRV, or you can kind of run your own analysis off of it, which I really like. But another thing that I like for the Elite HRV app is this. It's the HRV frequency domain results. The HRV frequency domain results is my favorite part because it actually tells you the total power of your autonomic nervous system. LF stands for your sympathetic nervous system, while HF stands for your parasympathetic nervous system. It's really important to have a good balance here. So this balance is a 3.11 is what this one says. Typically, you want that to be pretty low. So I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about, it was a data scientist collecting numbers on HRV, and she was saying that you don't want to ever have an HRV greater than 8 to 10. Once you get past that, your LF is too high, so your sympathetic
power is too high compared to your parasympathetic. So you're always in a fight or flight response, as opposed to having a stronger HF, which is going to be, again, your parasympathetic nervous system. So this kind of balance here is really important, but also it shows you that total power, I think, is a really good number to know, because typically most athletes are going to have this in a very, very high level. So you're going to have this in the 5 to 15,000 range. So for me, I can almost track it. I'm trying to do better. Again, I've only been tracking this for a few days, but I want to be able to track the total power and be able to see if there's a difference in my nervous system based off how I feel one day and the next day. So if I feel really energetic, there's been some days where I have so much energy and I come back on here and I see my total power was through the roof. And then there's other days where I'm really kind of tired and my LF will be low and the ratio will be lower too. So I'm in that more of a relaxation mode where I have a nice balance between my sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, and my total power matches that. So the HF frequency domain curve or results is something that I'm still trying to learn, and I think that it has a great application. All right. So also has your minimum heart rate, your maximum heart rate, your average heart rate for that session. And then I think it's super important when you are taking this to take notes and as much as you possibly can. So today was my day off from class. I felt pretty good, and I always take my reading position from the same exact position. I had a snow day, and sometimes I'll put in my notes how training was the previous day. And sleep tag, I thought my sleep was pretty neutral. Actually, it was pretty good. It was good. So again, this is just going to help me make more trends and stuff. And again, I could put exercise in here if I want. Received RPE, weight, sport. So, my basketball. So whatever you want to put in there. There's powerlifting, there's power endurance, there's running, there's sprint, strength, there's weightlifting. I mean, there's always different things you can put in there, and just to try to track. So if you're doing weightlifting one day, powerlifting the next, it can be helpful for you to track and see how your HRV changes based on the sport and activity you did. All right, so that's kind of a brief overview of the recent data and stuff like that. Another huge thing that I think can be helpful when you're using an app like this is you can actually share your data. So find a team to join. You can actually share your data to other people so they can see your readiness score for the day, your heart rate variability, so they can keep you accountable. If you're a coach, you can keep your athletes accountable by just using the simple app. This current app is actually free. There's nothing you have to pay to use it, which is really nice, and it gives you a lot of data. I bought HRV for training this past week, and I stopped using it because it didn't have the frequency domain curve, or the frequency domain results that this app did, and I thought that was a big part of trying to figure out the readiness score. They would just give you the readiness, HRV, heart rate, but this one has a little bit more to offer, and I think it's a little bit more user friendly. So definitely recommend trying an HRV app out. I mean, it's really not too hard. Okay, so here's a new entry. So there's plenty of things you can use, plenty of different ways to track your HRV. Morning readiness is probably going to be the thing you use the most often, because this is going to be able to allow you to track the trend of how you feel from day 1, day 2, as long as you're taking them at the same day. A 1-minute HRV snapshot, you can take that any part throughout the day. You can even do this with exercise. So you want to track your HRV during exercise, during your cool down, all that kind of stuff. You're free to do that. I haven't done it. I haven't looked into the research of exactly how to use that yet. So I'm really just trying to use this as a main recovery tool for me now.